go. My question for you, Devon, is what is the racism that takes place the most within the Bronx?
Well, from my experience, I believe Hispanics and African Americans. Most Hispanic females and black females, they just don't get along.
And why is that?
Hispanic girls, they tend to make fun of African American females because they may have longer hair or lighter skin tones. And African American females feel Hispanic girls try to take their men and normally carry themselves in a conceited manner.
All right. What is your input, being of African American and a Dominican descent, on the racism between Hispanic and African American relations in the Bronx?
Well, from experience, what I've noticed is that growing up, it's not as relevant as it is now, opposed to when I was younger. But growing up, you know, it was there was this underlying tension in the schools, in the Bronx where I was raised, where it almost was a need to fit in, but where? Because the tension lied between African Americans, particularly just blacks in general, and Hispanics. And me being of African American and Dominican descent, it was kind of hard because when growing up in high school, you're always looking for a way to identify yourself. You're always looking for that how you can identify yourself in individuality and that clique or that group to fit in. And it because of the tension, it made it kind of hard because it was almost like I had to choose a side, and whatever side I chose, that was just the group I was put in. That was where I was placed. And I don't know. I think that it really stems from ignorance, to be honest, and I mean that in the pure sense of the word. Just a lack of knowledge, a lack of knowing. That a lot of times they just didn't know. Especially in high school, I don't see how that would even be relevant. Trying to figure out your background and trying to figure out, no one's thinking about that in high school. But the truth of the matter is that there was a lot of ignorance running around. It's what it was. But from like I've been told, this is how far the ignorance goes. Oh, okay, on one side it's like, oh, you're not Spanish because you're too dark to be Spanish. And then on the other side I was, oh, you're not black because look at your hair. From the Spanish people, so your hair is of different texture. Your hair is not nappy, or in the correct terms would be kinky. That's and that would be their explanation as to who I am, as if they're defining who I am. And it's me. And so I had those things happen to me, and it really came to a point where it was almost ridiculous, and I just had to say to myself, which side, if do I want to choose a side, or do I want to be who I am and have just two type of friends and be comfortable with that? I didn't think there was a need for that. But it was a lot of racism. I've witnessed many times where there would be even fights between just black people and Hispanics just based on the fact that one was black and one was Hispanic. And it was ridiculous. The arguments would be ridiculous. They would come on, and the insults would just, look at you, you're black, you're a monkey, look at your hair. And then on the other hand, it's like, look at you, they call them all sorts of names, Spanish, this, that, and the third. You came on a boat, to me, it was crazy because it was almost like it was like a internal conflict in my mind. Like, which way do I go? Do I stick with the blacks? Do I stick with the Hispanics? If I stick with the blacks, am I denying the Hispanics? If I stick with the Hispanics, am I denying the blacks? and it's so prevalent today. It still takes place. It still goes on, and a lot of times people just don't really have that type of concern to the next individual and how that may affect them. You know, but racism, yeah, oftentimes we have this idea that racism takes place between just black and white, and and it's just racism. It almost has that connotation like black and white. Just racism means black and white, when in fact racism takes place between many groups. Black, white, Hispanic. As long as there's human beings, and there's the potential for flaws and mistakes to be made, there'll be racism.
There you go. That's what we're gonna do.